What if the planet isn't failing? What if the people running it are? What if the greatest obstacle to solving climate change isn't technology or policy or even denial, but ego? And what if the cure for that ego isn't another board meeting, but it's a psychedelic journey? Tonight's story begins with a question that feels almost too dangerous to ask out loud. What if the only way to save the planet was to kidnap billionaires destroying it? Stay with me, because this isn't a call to arms. It's a call to consciousness. This is Doyle. Welcome to Spirit Talk Show, Bedtime Stories for Grown-ups, a storytelling podcast about connection, curiosity, and the moments that shape us. I'm Doyle. Tonight, we're joined by Diana Colleen, an award-winning speculative fiction author whose debut novel, They Could Have Been Saviors, tackles climate change, wealth inequality, and the radical idea that billionaireism might not be success, but sickness. Diana doesn't just write about transformation, she lived it. After undergoing psychedelic-assisted therapy that she says saved her life, she became a trained psychedelic facilitator, and now brings that lens, healing, ego confrontation, responsibility into fiction that dares to ask whether the people with the most power might also need the deepest healing. In this conversation, we'll explore, is billionaireism a social illness? Can psychedelic therapy disrupt entrenched systems of power? How do we hold both rage and hope in the face of climate collapse? And what role does speculative fiction play in shaping the future? This isn't just about a book. It's about reimagining power, healing, and what saving the planet might actually require. Hello, Diana.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, hello. I have to tell you, and I'm sure you've heard 100 times before, you know what your last name means in Gaelic, right? Colleen?
No, I don't.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm the one who gets to tell you. Wow, your last name.
Oh, are you going to make up something really interesting?
Yes,
here,
I'm going to say, yeah, it's the body part. No, I'm joking. I'm just like, Colleen is the Gaelic word literally for girl. Buchel is boy and Colleen is girl. It's not spelt the way you're spelling it. You spell it the kind of phonetic, like American way. It's spelled Cailini, fada in Gaelic, right?
Oh,
and father is like an
wow.
accent grave in French, right? So I can't believe I'm the first person that's told you that.
I
Don't you? You live in Seattle,
my
right?
husband is Irish, and he should know that.
Wait, he's an Irishman named Colleen? Are you sure he's Irish?
No. Colleen is actually my middle name.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you go by the pseudonym. Yeah. And this is. Oh, by the way, I have Russ here with me, a co-host, and I don't have Howie tonight. I typically have Howie with me. I don't know if you listened to any of the episodes, but I usually have like Howie. You're gonna have to do Howie's part tonight and read some stories, right?
Okay.
Okay. Wow.
I'll try and impersonate his voice.
So I'm sure you realize I've been recording from the second we got on here, right? I like to record and get that first little introduction and getting to know each other. And your sound is great. Oh my gosh.
Good.
Colleen, some people come on and their sound sounds like they're speaking to me in one of those stringed can things.
Hello.
And I'm trying to tell them like, oh gosh, I'm sorry. We're going to have to fix that. I don't think we can go on. But thank you for having good sound. And thank you for coming on. And thank you for writing your book, because I'm so interested. Russ's words, we were reading about your book, and his words is, this sounds like a dream scenario. Wait, this is...
Yeah, everyone's like, can we make this nonfiction?
Yeah, is this this is a thriller? Could this happen? Could this be... Well, you are a speculative fiction author, so we need to have you move into the realm of speculative nonfiction. Right.
Right. So the real question for me is, when did the concept for the book come to your mind? Because there's a difference between whether you were thinking about this 2 years ago or 12 years ago. You know, I mean.
Yeah. No. I think the first time it came to me was probably about 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And because we were talking about this before we came on, and we're saying like, Russ was saying, you can go ahead and it's what you were saying, that there's an amount of money that somebody can get to, and let's say for argument's sake it's $1 billion dollars, and after that no more money can change your life in any other way, because you at $1 billion you can buy anything you could have imagined in your entire life. Am I saying it right, Russ?
Yeah.
And so why do you need more than $1 billion? And these people who have 500 billion, and why?
Yeah, that's the sort of short synopsis here of what the book is out. Sounded really interesting, because what is it that drives these people to, and the analogy I was making to Doyle is, I've heard cancer described as the body's healing factor gone out of control. Yeah, it's like what our body does to heal is necessary, and but when it doesn't know when to stop, you get cancer. Our drive to be able to be comfortable and things like that is important. Yeah. But it's like what's happened with these people is it hasn't stopped. It's grown out of control, and it's too cancerous. I mean, anyway.
I think we should let the guests respond.
Exactly.
I look at it as a mental illness. So, like, we've all seen the show Hoarders, and we know that that's a mental illness, and it affects their families, it affects themselves, but it doesn't typically spill out into society. But with billionairism, that's hoarding at an extreme that affects every single one of us and the planet itself.
So you described that as billionairism as sickness. So do you mean it psychologically or like not politically? That's what you mean, a psychological, or you're talking about an actual mental illness?
Well, I think it's both, right? The fact that billionaires exist and the way they're acting it is a sickness to democracy, but it's founded in what I think Diana's talking about here, and that it's what is the underlying pathology that even creates these people?
That creates them.
But we have to be careful.
Exactly.
Just because someone is super rich doesn't mean they're bad. Because the fact is, if your book became a super hit and you made $1 billion from it, you would take the $1 billion, but the difference between you and these people is what would you do with the $1 billion if you got it to
right. And I think about the billionaires that people think are good, like Oprah and Taylor Swift. Those are the ones that typically come to mind. And they do some really wonderful things with their money. But they still have more than $1 billion. And like you were saying, why does anyone need that much money? And I just don't think it's morally right to have more than that. Like, get rid of it. Spend that money, like help people with it. I think $1 billion is a pretty, generous cutoff.
I think it's very generous. It's $1,000 million. I have a friend who used to live in Guatemala, and she said the street kids and the beach kids could be fed, clothed, and educated for $1,500 a year. And so that's where my $1 billion would go. And it's just these people could change the history of countries with a fraction of their income. And why don't they? Why don't they?
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. And I don't think that people really understand what $1 billion is. So I like to tell people, in time, 1 million is like, if 1 million were time, it's in seconds, it's 11 days. So 1 million seconds is 11 days. Yeah. Do you have any idea how much 1 billion seconds is?
Well, I'm a math teacher, so I do know. But I know that people don't know, because
since you're a math teacher, convert it to years.
And he's a computer teacher too. I know it's
don't just go 11. Don't go 11,000 days.
I think it's
give
in
it to
the 31
us
to 30 years, right? Isn't it right there?
Yeah.
It's 30. Yeah. So it's 11 days is $1 million, and 30 years is $1 billion, right? Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. Like that. I don't think our brains can really comprehend how much money that is.
And we have people who have 600 billion. So he could lose $1 a day, and that would take 180 years.
Right? And it's 86,400 seconds to the day.
Yeah.
So $1 billion for 31 years, you could spend $86,000 a day.
A day. Wow.
Before you exhausted it.
I mean,
and that's if it didn't grow, and that's if it wasn't growing at all. That's if it was just in a big pile.
But this is the thing that I want to shake at the big, like, juju in the mountain and yelling at the God up there and say, give it to me. give it to give it to Diana Colleen and give it to me and just see what I'll do and just see what you'll do. Right. So why can't people like you and I and Russ get it? So if we get, but then of course I look at people back in the 80s, like Richard Branson seems like one of those billionaires that seemed like a nice guy. And in the 80s, before he was super rich, I know, everybody rolls their eyes. I'm sure he did some bad things.
Well, no, just recently, in the Epstein files.
I know.
He was one of my, one of the billionaires that I thought, okay, he's probably a decent guy, but now he's in the Epstein files.
Let's hope that doesn't end up putting a darker twist on his naming his company's Virgin.
Oh, gosh, I didn't even think of that. Oh, my gosh. Wow, that's it. Well, I mean, it's fair to say not everybody that's in the Epstein file, it depends what you're in there for, but not everybody who went to an Epstein party is a bad guy, because not everybody knows the person who's running the party, but you should have known there was something not so good about him. I mean, if you went to his island, you probably should have known something was good going on.
But if you switching back a little bit, but if you take I can't remember her name, but Jeff Bezos's ex-wife.
Oh, yeah.
Who I think has been doing pretty...
Mackenzie Scott.
Yeah, who has been, I think, at least last I heard, hopefully nothing horrible has happened, has been doing some pretty tremendous things with her half of that fortune. And she's even sort of said, I can't give it away quick enough, fast enough. It grows faster than I can give it away. And of course, obviously, that's once it's accumulated to that level. But
because $1 billion at just 1% interest in the bank is making $10 million a year, and you can get higher interest than that, right? So I mean,
if you have a couple of $1 billion, you can make all kinds of better investments.
So I mean, then getting a 1% return, I mean, there's returns you can get 8%. So you can make it's just obscene amounts of money. But again, give it to me and give it to Diana and see how I'll change the world. I mean, every kid in this country will have a free education up through college. Give me 600 billion. Every kid will. No kid in the richest country in the world will go hungry tonight. Right. I mean, give it to me. Yeah.
Now, although it is, if given the.
Are you playing like billionaire advocate now?
No, but that it is if you were left suddenly $1 billion and given the instructions, you were left $1.1 billion.
Yeah,
100 million for you.
Yeah,
on the condition that the other billion that you distribute in ways that would create the most positive leverage possible that wasn't directly benefiting you. That isn't a give me 10 minutes and I'll write the list down.
I know.
I mean that is a okay. This is how what. There's so many possibilities to do. It is, and I think that's Mackenzie Scott's issue is just finding because you do have to. You can't just say every cause that comes to me and says I'd like money doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be
it's a full-time job giving your money away. So
vetting and qualifying and knowing and being able to, but just having it sit in a giant pile like you're some sort of
I don't want to be the person.
Dragon,
I don't want to be the person like talking a lot when it gets done. But it feels like sometimes I feel like if I feed a hungry 100 hungry kids and 2 of them are cheating this system, I'd prefer to feed 98 and have 2 cheats than have feed none because 2 might cheat, right? So, let's talk about your book. I'm sorry, I don't want to make sure that the person who came out to talk about a book gets to talk about a book.
First 45 minutes is us, Doyle.
There's 45. We've already talked for 45 minutes. So your book is. I also really am interested in the psychedelic facilitator because I've been looking into that, and unfortunately, they're hard to get down here. There is a place in Oakland that you can get them, but I presume you're talking about shrooms, right? Other types of things like that.
Like that, yeah, mushrooms, MDMA, for the most part.
Okay, well, let's talk about your book. This book you wrote. Let's tell us about the book you wrote and how that came about.
So I am not one of the people who have thought that I was going to write a book my whole life. It never occurred to me to write a book, and in in 2018, I went through a suicidal period, and that's how I became introduced to psychedelic-assisted therapy. It actually saved my life. And going through that, I learned other tools to help me stay alive, like meditation. So I have a daily meditation practice. And this entire concept for this book came to me in meditation. And I was like, what is this? And I kind of ignored it. And it just kept coming back in meditation time after time. I feel like it was the universe kind of saying, hey, we've whatever the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, it was asking me to write this book. And I couldn't really ignore it. And at that time, I was in a job that I really disliked. I was very unhappy. And my partner, who's now my husband, said, you're so unhappy and you've got this idea for a book. I can support you. Why don't you quit your job and write this book? And that was terrifying to me. I've never been dependent on somebody other than, my parents. I'm a very independent person. And so quitting a job that was, paying my bills and relying on somebody else was really scary. But there was something that told me that was the right thing to do. So I quit my job and I started writing. I was at my desk at home, 8 to 10 hours a day for 3 years, writing a book.
Wow.
And learning how to write. I didn't know anything about writing or the publishing industry, nothing. So, I spent a lot of time going to writing classes and just learning how to write a book.
So from a process perspective, did you longhand it? Did you type it? Did you dictate it and then edit? How did you take your thoughts and actually get them onto the page virtually? So how are you, so to speak?
Yeah. So, when I first started writing, I had a lot of the ideas already in my head. And so I just wrote, computer, on Scrivener, and I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And then when I was like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen next, I was a total pantser. Didn't plot anything out. I had no idea who the characters were. I had no idea what was going to happen. So when I was like, oh, I don't know what happens next, I meditated and it came. So I never really truly experienced writer's block the way that a lot of authors experience.
Well, we've had authors on who said that they didn't write the story. The story was just facilitated through them. So that sounds like that was the process, that this was the world. So do you think that do you believe that someone can become a billionaire without losing something essential, or is extreme accumulation itself a symptom? Do you think someone can be a good multi-billionaire?
Like I said before, I don't think you can truly be moral or ethical while you're sitting on that kind of money and not doing good things with it.
Because I think it would depend on the time frame that it happened in, right? I mean, if someone over the course of 20 years slowly clawed that pile of cash together, that's different than if
children,
something happened and it windfalled. I mean, and then it's how do you react to that windfall? Yeah,
but I know that I know iPhones are still being made by children in certain countries, and that the person who's one of the CEOs of that company is in the top 5 billionaires in the world. So that's hard to describe that as moral.
No argument. I mean,
no argument. Yeah. So okay, I don't want to. I love talking to you. You make me feel so comfortable, like we're just old friends and talking. And I don't want to get into the habit of talking too much because I want to hear about the psychedelic facilitating.
Not till at least the 30-minute mark.
The 30-minute mark.
At least first half on the book.
We're on 17. We're 17 minutes now. We haven't done any of the. So tell us about So you wrote this book, and I'm looking at your reviews. By the way, we got to talk about these reviews. This is a well-plotted, expertly written story. Blue Ink Review, notable word. And someone says, unputdownable. I love that. Colloquialization of words. Independent Book Review. A unique and compelling exploration of a topical issue. Fans of the Black Mirror.
I love that series.
Margaret Atwood and Charlie Pal, is it Nook, will probably devour it. So you got notice, girl.
Yeah.
You got notice, Colleen. Speak Irish.
4 awards.
So,
You got notice, Colleen. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. Wow. 4 awards. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is getting recognition. But it hasn't really translated into sales yet.
So when did it come out?
Last month, January 13th.
Okay. Oh, well, you got that. And it's available right now. And it's available right now. Can you buy it in Amazon? I know it's in Feathered Pages website and also Haunted Borrowed Books, because that's the links on your website. Yeah. But one can get it in Amazon and stuff. I mean, I'm going to say this as an aside because I'm a tech guy. So when I'm on your website and click on the links to Haunted Borrowed Books and Feathered Pages, it doesn't go directly to your book. It just goes to that website. Is that what it's supposed to do?
It is. Because I'm anti-billionaire, I don't really want to promote Amazon, even though Amazon is where authors make money.
Yeah.
So independent bookstores struggle as much as independent authors do. Yeah. And so when an independent bookstore agrees to put an independent author's book in their bookstore, it's kind of a big deal. And so I want to promote those bookstores over and above Amazon, because I feel like it's a reciprocal thing. There goes my Amazon notification.
Yeah. So I think what maybe
did we just hear an Amazon notification in the middle of that speech? Is that what I just heard, Colleen?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good.
Well, but I think maybe what we can do after this is follow up with you and say, because you were sort of looking at it before and it wasn't obvious how to actually buy the book through their website.
Yeah, I clicked on the link for Feathered Pages and I go to a page that I don't know where to find your book after I click on the link, right? So I'd have to go searching for the book, I guess, or am I?
So those are where it's physically in stock.
Oh,
so you can So that would be like somebody actually going to that bookstore to pick up the book. I should make that more clear on the website.
So if we if we wanted here in Sacramento to get a copy, how would we go about doing so?
So how do people all over the world, with the 45,000 people that be listening to this show last month, how do they get a copy online?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple Books. It's on Kobo Plus. So if you subscribe to Kobo, it's free to read on Kobo Plus. It's available at all the big names, but you can go into an indie bookstore anywhere and they can order it for you.
Okay. From a web designer point of view, that wasn't clear to me when I read your thing. So maybe we're fixing your website now too, aren't you?
Yeah.
Aren't you glad you did this? So we're going to go on to another topic you personally are very into is climate change. And I heard the expression climate grief. Is that something that was from? Is climate grief? Have you heard that expression before? People who feel like sad because climate change is just this huge thing that I'm powerless to do anything about. At least they feel this hopelessness, climate grief. So, I
understand that.
Is that something you feel?
I don't personally feel that because I like to say that hope is the consequence of action. So I have hope because I'm doing something about it.
Yeah.
But I understand that especially like younger generations have that climate grief. Like they're like, why do I bother going to school? Why do I bother trying if we're not going to have a planet to live on? Like they feel like they have no future. And that makes me really sad. And with this book, I want to really focus on, like, I believe that we all have personal responsibility when it comes to the climate crisis. So, eating less meat, there's things that we can do personally that do have an impact, but even if 7 billion of us made those choices to do things differently, it really wouldn't have the same impact as the 3,200 billionaires in the world changing their behavior. So why are we focusing all of our efforts trying to change 7 or 8 billion people's behavior when we just need to change 3,200 people's behavior?
Right. Well, and I think I saw it in one of the, I don't know if it was in the on the book Fly or what, but you were talking about consequences, and I think there's an element of how the sort of just lack of consequences that falls on
world
on folks past a certain point.
I lived in that world a little bit. I lived in Hollywood for a while. I lived with people. I worked for people who were insanely rich. And they live in a world that there's nobody around them that says, hey, John, I don't think you should do that thing that way because that's really creepy and awful. Because everybody around them worked for them. It's kind of like the Michael Jacksonism. Everybody in like Neverland worked for him. So nobody could say, right, hey, man, kid sleeping in your bedroom is a bit odd. Let's not go ahead and do that.
Didn't have the slave standing behind them on the chariot like the Roman emperor saying, thou art mortal.
Yeah, so I think there's people that, I think there's nobody in their lives to say, like, is there anybody in their life to say, hey, Colleen, hey, Diana, that's an awful thing you're thinking about doing, and lots of people are going to get hurt. Let's not do that. Because there's nobody in their life to do that.
So do you think?
And I think they're disassociated from reality. They live in a completely different reality than we do, and that's part of the book and psychedelics is, psychedelics have a way of connecting people. So it connects you to yourself, it connects you to humanity, and it connects you to nature, and that's what the book is really about.
So do you think that a lot of these folks started out lacking in empathy, or do you think something happened that caused their empathy to atrophy?
That's the amount of money that was the barrier.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's probably both. I think we can see that there are certain billionaires who are clearly narcissists, and I think narcissism is a there's the nature nurture debate. My major was sociology, so I'm all about nurture. But I also do know that psychology has a big part too. So you are born a certain way. You have certain things that sort of at a set point when you're born. But I do believe that you can learn how to change that set point.
Yeah, I remember reading a study, I'd have to go try and see if I could find it, that was looking at people who had donated a kidney to a stranger. And what they ended up finding is that the same part of the brain in those people is hyperactive as is almost completely inactive in people who have various forms of psychopathy. So that in many ways, psychopathy and empathy are kind of the same thing, just on different ends of that spectrum.
And I think there's a theory I think it comes from, I looked it up because I can remember from Nietzsche or Plato, the idea that people are going to, you're talking about were the billionaires like evil to start with. I think many people find your true form when you have the freedom. You have no barriers anymore. Many people, you find your true form. If it's a beast or if it's angelic, right? When there's no barriers anymore stopping, if Doyle or Russ or Colleen has no one telling you, are you going to find that form of the empathetic person or the person who a lot of these people become?
Right. Well, and this also isn't something brand new. I mean, right? There were people in the Victorian era who would, pay urchins to stand at the window while they ate their grand holiday, feast, and because the food tasted better if there were hungry children looking at you while you ate it. This has been around a while.
That's awful. Thank you for that thought.
But I think it has gotten. I don't know if the amount
not that late anymore.
If the pure aggregation has gotten worse, or what the people who I think Billionaires can influence so much more deeply now. The negative impact to the world that someone who has $100 billion can do, I think, is more now than it was 100 years ago.
Absolutely.
So Colleen, so you're writing about these things. It's about collapse. How do you do it without collapsing yourself? Like, how do you stay up?
Like I said, the whole writing process and having this book out there gives me hope. I just work so hard every day to bring this message to people, to everybody, you know, like that's what gets me up in the morning is I got to get this message out there.
So why did you choose fiction and not write a manifesto or nonfiction?
All these days I would have gotten her in some trouble.
Next Heal the World book, right?
Well, I think fiction can sort of allow people to look at things from a different lens. So if you read a nonfiction book or listen to a lecture and it's just sort of data, right, like thrown at you, you might absorb it and go, oh yeah, that makes sense, but then it kind of goes away after you've finished reading it or after you've finished listening to the lecture. But stories have a way of really sticking with you. So that's my goal, is when somebody finishes this book, I hope that they're still thinking about it weeks and years later.
Well, I think it also stimulates, at least maybe you can say whether this applies outside the U.S., but I don't think a lot of people, we've enshrined wealth so much and the pursuit of it in sort of the American ethos. I don't think a lot of people don't even question is there a reason not to keep getting more at some point in time? And I think just having people pause and say, after a certain point, why do you need
But I don't
more?
get it. I don't get it. When I was researching this episode, Colleen, I was looking at saying, like, the oil companies, they could make $9 billion like next year rather than $15 billion and give every employee an amazing life. And why is $9 billion not enough for these people? Why is not? Because $9 billion is unimaginable every year.
But it's all about power. You know, once you have whatever enough means to whoever, you know, wealth, it then becomes about the power behind the wealth. I don't know if you watch John Oliver, but he just put out a thing about Twitter, and he still calls it Twitter, and I love that about him. And how Elon Musk just manipulated so many things with Twitter, and it's just, that's the power that wealth has. Like,
people talk about
that guy
buying Twitter and looking at how much money was lost on that and going, oh, what a terrible decision, what a dumb thing that was. And it's like, no, that was not about a financial decision. That was a information control decision.
Yeah, that was a rule the world kind of decision.
So let's talk about, I want to talk about something, and I don't want to make ethical tension, that get it kind of uncomfortable. But so if you force somebody to transform, is that ethical?
That's a really good question. That's something that I want people to discuss. But I sort of think of it as like an intervention. So when somebody is an alcoholic, we hear about interventions a lot. And there are a lot of addicts who are very, like, they don't necessarily want to go to rehab and get help and fix their lives, but a lot of them are forced into it. And they're very grateful when they come out. But the hardest part about one of the hardest parts about writing the book was with psychedelic therapy, we talk about set and setting. So the set is your mindset. So going into the day with the psychedelics, you have to have the right mindset so that you don't have a bad trip. And so a lot of the book is actually getting the billionaires to agree to do the therapy.
Wow. Fortunately, I've had a bad trip because I went in with the bad mindset when I took a lot of shrooms one time, and it was a bad place. So
it's terrifying.
I'm interested in microdosing, but I went deep that day, and it was bad, and it definitely does some trauma around that. But
I know we're 3 minutes past the 30-minute mark, so it's okay to go. But I want to ask one more question about the book, if we can.
Well, we should. Ask a couple. Let's ask: is your book about punishment or is it about redemption?
It's redemption for sure. Absolutely redemption. Yeah, it's not punishment. Right. It's help. It's like, I believe. So before I wrote the book, I was solidly in the camp of billionaires are evil. So I think there's two camps. There's billionaires are evil and billionaires are heroes. And I was firmly in the evil camp. Yeah. And when I started writing the book, I'm like, I'm not writing these people as evil. And I'm writing them as human beings. And that was like, wow, okay, yeah, they're just human beings like us. They've had trauma like everyone else, and I want to help them.
So what would real accountability look like for the ultra wealthy? Like, what would it look like? If they listen to this show tomorrow, what should they do? Like what? Yeah.
Well, take responsibility for the damage that they're doing, and take responsibility for the power that they have over humanity, and do good instead of doing bad things, instead of destroying the planet, instead of dividing us, unite us and fix the planet.
So if you were sitting across the table now, if I was a billionaire and we met, like, what questions would you ask me?
I would ask, what do you want your legacy to be? Mm-hmm. How do you want to be remembered? If you have the choice between being remembered as somebody who did everything you could to, solve climate change or solve poverty or solve war, or would you rather be the guy who builds the biggest corporation in the world and destroys the planet? And
if they answer, once I'm gone, there is nothing after meat. Meat is meat. I don't care. I just, I want. Yeah. I mean, it is this sort of odd thing, and again, a lot of it ties back to consequences in terms of if these people didn't have a society and a rule of law that they existed within, many of them would not be able to walk down the street or exist for a day without somebody eliminating them if they were in a world that was not protecting them. I mean, because you act like that in a situation where you don't have massive coercive power. You suffer rapid and immediate consequences. Yeah. But they're able to insulate from that. Right. So, and I guess also lifespan, right? If the way we're doing the climate, if people lived 1,000 years, presumably they'd be a little more worried about it because they'd be here for the problem, but something that is, going to,
But then people like us, and I want to hear Diana's opinion, but people like us know we want to plant a tree. We'll never sit under the shade, right? So, and that's what you're doing right now. You're planting the tree, and can we do it?
It's that saying, like, I can't explain to you why you should care about other people. Like, if you don't care about other people, I don't know how to tell you that you should.
Yeah.
Well, right? and bring that recognition that so much of what is making your life like something that you actually want to live is because so many people before you cared about people that they would never know.
Yeah, so many people.
Exactly.
So do you see this as a spiritual crisis, a psychological crisis, or an economic one?
All three.
Yeah.
All of it, yeah. Yeah.
I knew this was going to be a heavy talk when I researched it because it's heavy topics, and I definitely want to talk about your book, and people should buy the book and make you the next billionaire, and then you can show people what an ethical billionaire looks like, right? Wow. So, wow.
But
I love verklempt.
The world might be a better place, though, if there were some avenging angels out there that would, potentially, that these people would know might, not even would, but that there was the chance that if they didn't act in a somewhat decent fashion might come and visit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I'm sorry, Little Foot Clam. This is a cool topic. I definitely want to hear about, more about you. Let's talk about the book. The book is, I believe.
Enough about the book. Let's just talk about mushrooms.
Yeah, but well, I want to talk about mushrooms too, and I want Colleen. I keep calling you Colleen. I want Diana to be the one talking the most because she's the guest. But if let's see.
So basically, you realize her name basically does mean goddess girl, from what you said.
Diana, goddess girl. You are literally, your last name is literally girl. Yes.
And Diana was
Diana,
one of the great Roman goddesses.
So yeah, I heard. And Diana is very popular. The princess too. That's a very popular name. So
I think the goddess came before the princess, though.
Really, I think so. Well,
I know being from your sense of history isn't the same as what we have here in the United States.
Diana? So. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, a couple, yeah.
Oh, a couple? In what culture?
It's the Roman name for Artemis.
Yeah.
Wow, we're getting into weeds for a lot of these topics. I want to hear from our wonderful guests.
Getting into basic mythology, into the
basic
weeds.
Well, I mean, we're talking, this beautiful author has wrote this important work that we want people to know about, and she came on, and I definitely want to talk more about that.
You're descended from the Trojans, right? You're Irish.
Well, I'm descended from the Vikings. My last Doyle is Duvgal in Gaelic, which means dark stranger or bad stranger. So that's where my name comes from. Probably Vikings, but sorry. Is that too soon to talk about the Vikings invading Ireland? 1,000 years. Is it naive to think ego can dissolve? Is it like these people who can we dissolve the ego of the wealthy and powerful? Is it realistic? Is it naive to think that we can dissolve at the scale that we need to? Or
in one sense, yes. To actually be able to make them do it. That's kind of naive. But the actual, if they agreed to it, if they underwent psychedelic-assisted therapy, and I want to make sure that people understand that there's a big difference between psychedelic-assisted therapy and doing psychedelics on your own. Yeah. So everyone knows that Elon Musk does his ketamine, and he is not the poster child for psychedelic-assisted therapy.
Is ketamine I thought ketamine was a tranquilizer.
Yeah,
is
it people take it with psychedelics, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I
am the most drug-ignorant person you'll
definitely
probably
somebody on this call hasn't done that. Yes, okay. Whose name rhymes with royal. Okay, it's deep. It really helps you go much deeper. But I'm saying I did do some assisted thing. I didn't just do it by myself at home. I did have a facilitator, but
the interesting question, though, that's implicit in what you asked here, though, is their ego the issue, or is it that they have lost somehow the ability to feel joy and pleasure from normal things? I don't know that ego is necessarily a bad. Yeah. Ego in excess is probably, but a certain amount of ego, I think, is healthy. Even perhaps an excessive amount of ego is healthy as long as it's accompanied by empathy and the ability to feel joy from other people's joy. Mm-hmm. I know nothing about psychedelic therapy other than I think a couple of things I heard on NPR at some point in time. So can you give the 30-second elevator pitch?
Okay, on the elevator pitch, you mean? Yeah.
What it is?
Psychedelic-assisted therapy?
Or do you want to do a second episode on that? Because
I'm not inviting her back. I'm joking. Okay. Let her. You gave her 3 options there. Let her choose.
So psychedelic-assisted therapy is quite different than talk therapy. With certain traumas, talk therapy can re-traumatize you. So PTSD, if you're just talking about the things that happen to you over and over, you're feeling the trauma again every time you talk about it. And that's why PTSD is quite resistant to talk therapy. With psychedelic-assisted therapy, for the most part, you meet the therapist and you have a couple of sessions like talk therapy just to get to know each other, and so the therapist knows what you're dealing with. And then you have a full day with the substance. The therapist will hopefully tailor the substance to what you're dealing with. And so during that day, you're really not interacting with the therapist that much. So the therapist their main job on that day is to keep you safe and to help you through any really tough spots. So like if you're having a bad trip, bringing you back, grounding you, and moving you through the tough part. But you're not like talking to the therapist all day. You're usually lying down with an eye mask on, listening to, meditation music, and everything is internal. You're looking at everything inside of you. And then after the full day, you'll have at least one integration session with the therapist, usually a day or two after your day with the medicine. And that's key. So the integration session is where you talk about what came up under the influence, and the therapist helps you understand what it meant and how you can take what you learned and change your life, change your behavior based on what you learned, and change how you feel about your life and the things that happen to you based on what you learned under the influence.
And this isn't just for billionaires, it's for everybody to change these decisions and change the things. You said you came from a time when you were suicidal and hated your job, and you came out of it and living your best life right now, ready to become the next billionaire author, we hope. So
yeah, but it's not a magic bullet. There are people who think, oh, I'm going to have one session with psychedelic assisted therapy and my whole life is going to change and everything's going to be better.
Yeah.
And yes, like my first session was absolutely life-changing. It saved my life. I was suicidal. I was not going to be around for very much longer had I not found that therapist. And after one session, I was no longer suicidal. So it can change your life dramatically in one session, but it's not going to make your life completely better. You're not going to suddenly, be perfect. You still have to do the work on yourself.
Well, so I don't want to get too personal if you don't want to, but was it something where you could look at it and say, I understand why I'm suicidal? Or was it one of those things where, you might just suddenly say, what would it be like to step out into traffic?
Somber.
No. I mean,
isn't somber the thought when you're on a high place? That thought, like, I could just jump off right now. Isn't that called somber?
But I mean, there is. I'm looking at. And thinking, I don't. You're gonna get your sense.
You asked her a quick question. You didn't let her answer.
No, sorry, you questioned what it is. I'm trying to clarify.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Diana.
Oi.
So what was the question?
I mean, there is something has happened or something's going on, and I don't feel like I can deal with it, and I just want to end myself to not. And there's sort of a thought process there, but there's also just walking down the side of the road and then suddenly going, I could just step right out, and it comes from left field. What type did you? I mean, were you like having these? I might suddenly end myself. Why the heck am I having those thoughts? Or was it locked up in a thing that you were dealing with?
It's been a life of trauma. So okay. I've had so many major traumas in my life, and I'm the kind of person who just stuffs everything down and doesn't deal with it, and I'm really strong and Irish. Like putting on a brave face, and I'm just really strong.
Well, you are Irish.
But in 2018, it just all bubbled to the surface. There was definitely a catalyst for that, Yeah, so it was a lifetime of trauma that just came to the surface all at once.
Well, I think that what he was talking about is, I think a lot of people have suicide ideation throughout the day. Like, this would be so much easier if I wasn't around. I think that's very different from being, because you describe yourself as suicidal. Like, it's like you're describing, like what they say is, if your friend like talks to you, if they have a plan, and this is how I'm going to go. I'm going to visit San Francisco, and I'm going to go to the top of it. If they have a plan, that's when it's not ideation anymore. Like walking down the street, I could just step out in traffic. I wouldn't have to worry about those bills anymore, right?
So here's a weird analogy, and I want to put forward and see if this is at all how you might think of psychedelics. And the answer is probably no. But if one thinks about a protein, like an egg white. The protein, the chemical structure of an egg white prior to it being cooked is the same as before. So when you heat it, it denatures. So because a protein folds as it is made by the rhizome. So and how it folds is sort of dependent on what is happening at that moment. So when you cook it, you denature it. Essentially gets straight, and then refolds. And if it's in its entire structure and then suddenly refolds, it's very different than if it's folding one amino acid at a time. Is that a little bit at all like what I mean? That you aren't fundamentally is it that you're not fundamentally changing what you are? You're just denaturing yourself and letting your mind refold. Is that
you're changing your neural pathways? So when we've had trauma, we ruminate, right? Like we think about these things over and over and over, and our brains get into a pattern, and it's really, really hard to get out of those patterns. And psychedelics just disrupts those patterns, and your brain actually makes new neural pathways under psychedelics.
So I know there's great like promise in psychedelics in the world, and as I was saying, I would love to find a place to do this type of therapy, but it's hard to find because is it legal to get? It's illegal. Is it legal in Seattle?
It's decriminalized in Seattle. Same with Oakland, I believe, is decriminalized.
What they do in
Oregon,
What they do in Oakland is there's churches in Oakland. They call themselves a church, and part of your religious mechanisms is taking these mushrooms. And
but then it sounds like it is also deeply and fundamentally important who it is that is assisting you on that journey. It's not just here's a building I can go into and take these substances.
Well, where did you find a facilitator and become a facilitator? And where do people find a facilitator
that they can trust? Because it sounds like it's something where you have to trust them more than just about anybody.
Trust is a big deal. Because right now, because it's so close to being legalized, there's a lot of training programs. Like you can do a training program online, and you're a trained facilitator. So you have to be really careful about who you're actually trusting with that, because when you're under the influence, there's been a lot of not a lot, but some facilitators take advantage of their clients, like a male facilitator, female client. So you do have to be really careful about who you trust. For me, when I was going through it, I joined a plant medicine meetup. So, Meetup, the app, and there was somebody there who had treatment resistant depression who had a psychedelic-assisted therapist, and he referred me to his therapist. So I was very, very fortunate to find somebody that way. In Seattle, like the person that I trained under, she actually has a website and lists like all the people that she's trained that you can actually hire as your facilitator. And then I've got lots of therapist friends who do psychedelic assisted therapy as well. So they don't advertise that they do it because they're actually licensed therapists. They're not just facilitators. Yeah. So they don't want to risk their license. But if you have a talk therapist, bring it up in conversation, and they might actually do it. and they just can't advertise it, or they might know somebody who does it.
It's kind of like, so you don't want to selling raw milk in Oregon. You can't advertise, but if someone asks you, you can say that you can.
Well, selling. So you don't want to. I noticed you said she has a website, but didn't you give the website? Do you not want to give the website for that person?
Oh yeah. Her website is Guardian at the Gateway.
Guardian at the Gateway.
So Angela Ward is who I trained under, and she's really influential in the Seattle area.
Well, you know,
she's been doing it a long time.
It almost sounds like
I have to ask you.
Go ahead.
I have to ask you, like, which she needs to come on the podcast and talk about this stuff.
Oh, I'll let her know.
We need to get in touch with her. Sorry, what were you going to say?
It almost sounds like the safest way to do this might be sort of with a circle, with someone who is your designated guide.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that there is a circle around you to essentially hold that person accountable to not abusing their position.
And something I was thinking about is I've done a few sessions, and there was one session that you're talking about, like taking advantage. There's one session that sex was involved, and I think that I was deep, and now that I think about it, that probably was something that the facilitator took advantage of. You know, I mean, I think
definitely
for years I thought I consented, but I mean, I probably was pretty deep.
You can't consent when you're under the influence. No, you were definitely that's exactly what. That's horrible. I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Yeah, I mean, so it can be scary for people, but I hope I would love to speak to your friend about, I'd like to do a whole episode on this. And I know I love hearing you say that it's going to be legalized, because I think it shows so much promise for people. Even my son, who's 19, and he has some depressive type personality traits, he's doing great, but he benefits so much from something like that.
The thing I get a little queasy, though, about the idea of it being legalized is, does it then fall under the auspices of the pharmaceutical companies and the standard medical institutions?
That's what I'm afraid of,
marijuana
too. Yeah, big pharma.
But in California, I don't think, like marijuana, that's happened to marijuana yet. I mean, I don't think it's huge.
Yeah, but this is very different than legalizing marijuana. Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. I really fear that big pharma is just going to take over, and like they're going to say, yeah, you can take this little synthesized pill that we've developed, but you can't go into the forest and pick a mushroom. Right. You know, that's still going to be illegal.
Well, and take this pill and log on to our AI facilitated therapy.
Right.
And it will have you come out the other side a kinder, better, gentler human being. Or what is the phrase from
like the show
Manchurian Candidate? Kindest, warmest, gentlest human being I know. You know.
Well, Colleen, I wanted to definitely take this time, because we have, believe it or not, spoken for almost an hour, and I'm not saying we're limited. Oh, no. I love talking to you, and I would love. And I don't care if the episode is an hour or two, but I'm not saying I don't have that much time to be in the studio. But I want to make sure you've got enough time to talk about your work and what's important and where people can get it and how people can get in touch with you. And So
is your book, do you have a bunch of physical copies printed, or are you expecting most people are going to get electronically, or what's the form factor for your book?
I've got boxes in this room full of copies, and but I think most people will probably order it on Amazon because it's so easy. Yeah. But I do have on my website, so it's dianacolleenauthor.com. There's a newsletter sign up, and if you sign up for my newsletter, you will get for free the discussion guide that also has bonus material that didn't make it into the book. So there's some ayahuasca trips in the bonus material that didn't make it into the book. But the discussion guide is meant for book clubs, but even individuals will get a lot out of it. There's so much to think about that comes out of the book. And it's not like about the characters. It's about you. It's about how you feel about the things that are brought up in the book. And I want to offer to any book clubs out there that if they have a meeting, they read my book, I will come to their book club meeting via Zoom and join their discussion.
Yeah, I see it on your website under book clubs. It says I offer complimentary Zoom visits for book clubs whose members are actively reading a novel. Visits are available when at least 5 participants are confirmed. You may submit a request at hello@DianaColleenAuthor.com. Wow.
So you've got boxes of the books.
Yeah.
For those who end up listening to this, is there potentially obviously Amazon does it makes it visible, but it also does fulfillment and things like that. If people were to come directly to you or to one of these other 2 bookstores, is that just way too big a pain to try and ship books? Or is there a better way than Amazon for our audience potentially to come? Are
you asking her if she's shipping books? Is that what you're asking?
Well, no, she obviously has a bunch there.
Okay.
If let's say that 5,000 people who listen to this wanted to get the book.
I think Russ wants a book.
Is there a way to not have it go through Amazon so they don't get their pound of flesh? I
know. I mean, I think what he's saying is on your website, right? There's a way for you to put something on there that you sell the book. A lot of authors that come on the show, they have a direct sales on their own book. And I think that wouldn't be hard for you to do because you could fulfill it.
It's a pain. I mean, hand shipping stuff is
5,000 books, but we wanted to sell 5 million copies, not 5,000 copies. So how much pound of flesh does Amazon take, or these bookstores? Do they take 50%? Do they?
So unfortunately, I make the most money when it's sold on Amazon.
Really?
And that kills me. So if you buy it from Barnes & Noble, I make less than a quarter of what I make on Amazon.
And if you were doing it, if you were shipping it yourself, what you would pay in shipping would
myself,
probably
I'd make a lot more.
So,
but
okay.
I'd have to
the
set
shipping wouldn't kill
up
you
on my website.
So this brings up this thing where I've always thought about, like, is there something to say for you to ride the shoulders of the devil for a while to get your sales really high, so then you can do the good that you need to do, right? So there's something for you to say, ride those shoulders for a while, right?
Yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah,
but,
pretty much.
Well, it's a little bit like musicians who have to go with a label until they're big enough that they can, like Taylor. You mentioned Taylor Swift earlier,
right? Yeah,
it's like
same kind of thing.
She's not beholden to anybody for her music rights anymore. I mean,
so what's the I felt like you were going to say something there. We interrupted you. Sorry. No. Okay.
No.
So a message to people that are listening, and people think this too, and the people think, it's just obscene that people have $600 billion. What's the message? So what they could be saviors. What would it look like in real life? What's the message to the world to close?
That we need to change the narrative around billionairism and stop looking at it like it's success and start looking at it like it is a mental illness, because it is.
Yeah.
And I think when we change the narrative, I think then systems can change, right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to have a revolution of consciousness before we can have reform.
Yeah. If instead of so many people idolizing folks who have this kind of wealth, if the vast majority of people are like, it's like, if being a billionaire was like having immensely bad body odor,
Well, I think we need there's a few steps we need to take before we get there. We need a revolution of education. We need a revolution of empathy. And then we need to have a revelation of valuing intelligence. And then we need to, and that moves us into the revelation of realizing we need to change systems. And the systems are something we can change, because there are countries in the world which seem to be very good. They figured out some systems that make them a wonderful place to live. Right?
And associating wealth to virtue is not it wasn't an accident that is become so endemic in society. I mean, that's been a conscious effort for a long time.
So last question I'm going to ask you. Of course, we can keep talking if you got time. It doesn't have to be the last question, but what illusion do you think our culture is most addicted to right now?
Oh, that's an interesting question. What illusion are we addicted to? The illusion that we're separate. When I meditate, I reach bliss when I meditate on connection. I listen to the same music for most of my meditations, and when I am listening to the music and thinking about the artist who created that music, and I'm so grateful to that artist, and I think about that person doesn't know that I'm listening to their music, but I'm connected to that person. And then I think about all the people that helped that person create the music, and I'm connected to all of those people. And it just goes out and out and out. If you think about anything in your life, like a piece of clothing, how many people, how many people am I wearing right now? I am connected to so many. We're all connected, and that's the illusion, that we're separate from everybody.
I think, wow, I think it's profound, because we're wearing these glasses and shoes and hats and this microphone and this foam here, and these keyboards are all the products of people, right? Yeah, well, I mean, that's a cool way to think about it. Wow, that's a good thought. Before we, I feel like we spoke over you too much. I definitely want to hear you more. So
no, I think this was a great conversation. I really appreciate a conversation where I don't have to do all the talking. So I thank you for that.
Well, okay. Hey,
that's super. I mean, sounds like a super interesting thought experiment with the book, and the whole concept of what you're doing with psychedelics is tremendously strange, but also interesting. I mean, strange in terms of, sort of alien to my knowledge or thinking, but,
So I think to the people listening, I think Russ doesn't feign interest very well in things, So he seems very interested in your book, and I think that says something about it, and I think people should buy it. I kind of think he wants a signed copy, to be honest, but...
I think I can send him one, so I'll message you after and get your mailing address, so I will definitely get those in the mail for you.
I just want to say I'm kind of connecting that when Russ isn't interested in something, he has a hard time engaging in it, but he's really engaged in this, so I think this is something that people should look into.
That is one of the joys of being deeply ADHD, is if you're interesting, you know it, and if you're not, you know it, because I can't make myself focus on something that isn't. If I, it'll save my life.
So you're engaging two ADHD people. So wow, and this is cool. I could talk about this for a long time. And I a little part of me thinks, like, I'm doing a podcast, right? And you wrote a book, and we want them to grow. We want people to read them, but these are very powerful people. These are very powerful people that probably have AI listening to every podcast that exists. Do you ever think they'll work against you because they don't like you doing this? That the AI and their thing.
Well, if her book gets delisted off of Amazon, we'll know.
Now we know. So what do you think about that? Like, are they? They're listening. I know that we talk about how, hey, we have our what's that thing? Back in the 60s, they'd bug your house. What was that called? Hey, like house bug, like,
right.
Where do I find a restaurant where we used to be afraid that we were bugged and listening to us all the time, and now we carry the bug around with us all day
voluntarily.
Right? Well, voluntarily, and we use it to summon strangers' cars to come pick us up, right? So I mean, I think there's something to be said when they found a microphone inside a Nest thermometer, and it has no voice activation controls. So why was that microphone in there? Right. So there is some stuff. But do you ever think about, if your book does show some success, you're telling these very powerful people you're bad and you need to change and you need therapy and you need to fix this right now. Do you ever think about that?
I hope they think that. Like, I want them to read this. My husband's like, we went to see Bill Gates speak last year, and he's like, why don't you bring something to throw at him, and then you'll get arrested, and that'll be great publicity for your book.
Yeah, probably would.
Throw a copy of the book.
Everybody would know about your book. If you threw a handful of mushrooms at him when he spoke, I think by the end of the day, everybody would know about your book. You'd probably get 1 million sales out of that. And it's just simple. It's just simple battery. It would just be like $150 ticket. So I think it's a good investment here. I'm not encouraging you to do it, but I think your husband is your husband in science or math? Because that sounds like a very logical approach.
He's a tech bro.
Yeah. Okay. He sounds like he's a tech math guy. We're both tech people, and I'm a math and computer teacher, and he's a programmer. So that's a very math way of thinking. Yeah. Go commit this crime that will cost you $150 and make you $1 million. The economics works, right? So, hey, So we're doing that next weekend? No, let's not. Wow. So thank you so much. This was really fun. I felt like the second you came on, I felt at ease and connected. And sometimes I felt like we were talking like old friends from the beginning, and it felt really good. And
well, that's because you guys are such great hosts. So it's all you as well. So thank you so much for having me. This has been fantastic.
And we will talk about I will talk to you about in the upcoming. I'll email you about when to release this episode, and we can release it on the soon side so we can get some sales for the book, and we can talk about what needs to be in the description of the episode and stuff so people can link directly to having links on the website that link directly to a place to buy the book. Imagine that concept. Okay. He said sarcastically. Sorry.
It sounds a little weird.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Wait. When one having a link on the website, then one can click on the link and buy a book.
Put in the work
I'm selling. People need to work to get the book. Is that Doyle? Okay. Wow. This was fun. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and once we're off recording, if you've got time, do you want a bizarre and strange short story?
Well, let's do that second. I would love your story, but I'm going to ask you one last quick question, and then we're going to sign off, and then he can tell his story if you're interested, or you can log off. Okay. No, I'm joking. What do you think is more dangerous right now, apathy or despair? Being quiet on a podcast doesn't it?
Yeah. That's deep.
But I was trying to avoid the dead time.
Probably apathy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think most people are apathetic right now because they have no hope. But like I said before, hope is the consequence of action. So you have to take action in order to have hope.
Apathy is the consequence of despair.
So, and your book can offer people a place to go if they feel apathy or despair. And we can move towards a place that we're healing this. And as a country, not valuing those kind of people, valuing the people who build us up,
Right.
I hope we can.
Yeah.
I hope we can. Well, wow. Thank you so much. Any last thoughts before we kick you off?
Just gratitude.
Okay.
For you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Go to, I'm going to say this right. I'll say your website from memory, but I'm looking at it. Go to DianaColleenAuthor.com. Go and see her blog there. By the way, your blog articles are chef's kiss. Go have her come to your book club and buy her book with the link she's going to put on tomorrow. Direct link to buy her book. Okay. Did you make the website? Okay.
I maintain it. Yeah.
Okay. I like your website because a lot of authors have very obviously AI generated graphics, pictures, websites that they obviously didn't create. So I like your website feels more authentic, but
Thank you.
I'm getting those links in there would help. Sorry, I'm so Irish. I keep bringing it up again and again. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and we will be in touch with you soon. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Night. Okay, so I'm going to press stop record there, but we will talk about. I'm going to press pause. Have it on tape.
Sure.
But it's very nice of Diana to bear with us. Russ is going to read a story by his grandparents.
Right. So this is reading this to you live. You will probably be the third. There are probably two living people who have ever heard this or read it at the moment.
And I had one today called TikTok. It was pretty awesome.
So I'll read you the titles and pick.
I show her the nicely bound book too, the professionally bound book your grandmother did.
Wow! I was going to say you should get it published
in the 30s, and it's all hand typed in here. Oh, did you?
I lost you guys.
Did you lose it?
You're back now. Sorry, you're back.
This is hand typed.
So it's pages that were hand typed and then bound. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this is the only copy.
Wow.
Wow.
So,
I think you should publish it too.
Well, I just need to get it transcribed. So I'll give you the titles and tell me which one that you think sounds interesting.
Okay.
The Bear and the Hummingbird, the brown and the white deer, the dwarf and the star, the frog, goat and people, the mountain goat, mouse found animal kingdom, the jealous palm tree, the seahorse, and TikTok.
Wow. Well, bear and hummingbird they're both very meaningful animals in my life, and so that one, like, immediately I was like, well, you don't have to read the rest.
So I think
Okay,
that's cool. That's maybe that's a prophetic that's for you, and he has a story about it. So okay,
I will warn you, this is one of the odder ones.
okay. Well,
okay.
Have you met you? Okay, yeah.
The story of the bear and of the hummingbird. Once upon a time, there was a bear. It was not an ordinary bear, but a very unusual bear. When he was small, he had been an ordinary bear, nice and dainty and playful. But as he had grown up, he had become huge and bigger and bigger. And when he was really grown up, he was a 1,000-pound bear.
Whoa.
Yet his old fur coat, his skin, had always faithfully grown with him, and he had been able to keep nice and warm with it. But one day, this bear decided to become the biggest and strongest bear, not only in this world, but of all the worlds, wherever they may be. He had been told that some stars were called the Big Bear, so he thought that to first match them and then overtake them, he really would have to make a very big effort. So he went about and gathered all the knowledge that bears can about how one would grow and get stronger and bigger. And he did all these things and grew and grew. And one day he found himself weighing 6,025 pounds. That was the day the terrible thing happened to him, of which he had never thought. His fur burst. One large rip all the way down occurred, and when he tried to move to find something to fix it again, he found himself suddenly without his fur coat, all naked.
Oh, wow.
That is really not naked, but at least without a fur coat. Most people don't know that bears under their fur coat are not naked. What this bear had, at least in a way, was something that made him look like a zebra. It was a rather tough, skinny affair, and he looked perfectly dressed and all right. But to the bear, of course, it did not seem so. He did not feel that he could go through even one single day the way he looked now. After a lot of thought, he went to the neighbors who had chickens and who had bees, and he got himself a barrel of honey, and he spread the honey out all on the ground. Then he went and asked the chickens if they could each spare some of their feathers. Each gave him 2 of the prettiest ones that they had so he would look happy again. And he rolled in the honey, and after that he rolled in the feathers of the chickens. And so he found himself, at least, with some kind of a coat. But this was really not what he wanted to wear permanently. Now, since he had lost his fur, he thought he would just look around and find out what would be the best replacement. Not just the toughest one, the best one in which he could keep gaining, but also the one that he would look most distinguished in and in which he would be admired most. You see, our bear was a bachelor. He had thought all the time that he liked it that way. He had not realized that was so because he had found nobody who loved him enough to marry him. But he had now suddenly the choice to become more beautiful or not, and he found himself very willing for improvement. It took him a long time to choose his new wearing apparel. Of course, as a zebra, he would look anyway if he got rid of the honey and feathers, but that he didn't like. He thought it was too wild. He didn't like either to look like a lion because that was somewhat too shaggy. He did not like to look like a bird because he thought that with his size, that might not be quite what he should look like.
He's describing what it is to be single AF.
He did not want to look like an elephant because he found that it was very difficult to keep clean with all the folds that their skin had. And neither did he want to look like a rhinoceros because he did not like their looks at all. But then he liked the leather of crocodiles, and he was thinking about getting himself something similar when somebody told him that would look cold, and besides, that it was impossible for him to grow on that kind of an outside covering. So he discarded that idea also, and already wanted to give up and go back to having his old fur skin enlarged and fixed. Suddenly, he saw a hummingbird. A little hummingbird as beautiful as you can find one anywhere. His idea that he did not want to look like a bird disappeared. He found himself dreaming of looking like a hummingbird. Of course, he had not given up his determination to become the biggest bear. So his problem was, how could he arrange, in spite of it, to have a hummingbird fur? He thought and thought, but he could not find a solution. So finally, he went to the wise owl, and he asked the owl for help. And the wise owl said that certainly she would be able to find a way, but it would take time to think, and also he would have to surrender his old furred coat to her. Because only sitting on that fur coat and thinking, she would be able to get the best idea. The bear did not like that idea. But then he did not so much want to look like a hummingbird. But then he did so much want to look like a hummingbird. So he went home, and he took the old bear skin and gave it to the owl. The owl was very pleased, because she was getting old and she was getting cold, and sitting on the dampness of the leaves sometimes disturbed her greatly. And now she sat on that comfortable fur and did her thinking, and it really helped her greatly. When the bear came a week later, as she had requested him to do, she was all ready with the solution. She said to first talk a hummingbird into trying to match his size, to tell the hummingbird how she could do it, and how by eating honey every day and by the hour, by the minute, and faithfully exercising her muscles, she certainly in a while would grow and may eventually reach the proper size. Of course, otherwise, the owl said, you would have to have a wife who would be skillful enough to match 25,000 skins of normal-sized little hummingbirds and sew them all together and make them fit you. And I don't think you have that.
Poor birds.
No, said the bear. I haven't even got any wife, and if I had a wife, how would I know if she could do that?
Single AF.
I do not think I can trust that. So what I shall be doing is to try and find a hummingbird that would be willing to grow for me, and I will promise him something very beautiful in return. The bear went around everywhere now to find a willing hummingbird, but none of them really wanted to help. They all liked to be small because they thought if they would grow, they would be unable to fly around as easily as they could now. And besides, they would be unable to do all the things that made their life pleasant. One of the nicest things they did, they said, was to visit flowers, and flowers did not like to be visited by big, clumsy animals. As it was now, the hummingbirds could fairly nicely sit on a flower without disturbing it and talk to the flower, and the flower could talk back. And also, the hummingbird could use his nice painted bill to pick out what honey and sweetness was in the flower without hurting the flower by that. And so the flowers liked to be visited by hummingbirds, and the hummingbirds liked the flowers. This was something that disturbed the bear very much. He had to find a good reason to talk the hummingbirds into growing, and he did not know of any good enough reason to counteract the pleasantness that hummingbirds are having now in their life. And he went to the big owl and told his troubles. The owl said, "Come back in a week, and I will do some thinking in the meantime." And when he came back after a week, the owl said, "I have done a lot of thinking, and I have but one idea. Take the smallest or take the biggest hummingbird. Both of them somehow feel unhappy because they feel inferior to the others. And talk either of them into getting into a position superior to the rest of them. I have seen over my long life," said the owl, that is the way you can make people do what they really do not want to do." And so the bear went back, and he looked at all the hummingbirds he could see, and he suddenly saw one that was much bigger than the others. And when he observed it, he found that when that little bird was sitting on a flower, the flower was bending wearily, and it would quickly have to fly off. So that was the sign that for this hummingbird, life was not as happy as for the other ones. The flowers did not like it as much as the other ones. Maybe this was the hummingbird he should talk to. He did so, and the hummingbird said he would think it over. It was a male, by the way. In the meantime, the bear did not want to wait, and so he went back and looked more at the other little birds, and suddenly found a little bitty bit of a hummingbird, so tiny that it did not seem to be a hummingbird at all. It seemed more like a big bee or a hornet, and somehow it seemed to be full of that realization. When it sat on a flower, the flower seemed to shake dismayed, and it seemed as if somehow the flower thought that it was nothing to be proud of to have that tiny little bird talk to her. Maybe this bird, therefore, was also not happy, and so he could be talked into helping the bear to grow. He told the little fellow his story, and right away the little fellow brightened up. He said, "Yes!" This was something that he had been thinking about all his life. How could he grow at least as big as the average hummingbird so that the flowers would like him? There was in particular one flower, a beautiful rose that he would like to impress. For that rose, he would do anything. Now, of course, that did not mean that this hummingbird was agreeable to grow to the size of the bear. But the bear thought a beginning was better than nothing, and perhaps he should start to make the hummingbird grow. They both had a long and earnest talk about that, and how it should be achieved, and the bear provided all the honey and all the vitamins and all the other food that he thought would help. After 2 weeks, the hummingbird began to grow, and every day the hummingbird doubled its size. When the hummingbird had been eating the new diet for a few more days, he was just big enough to be pleased and wanted to stop. But unfortunately, he had not realized that things would get so quick and had signed an agreement with the bear that he would faithfully continue to stay on that diet for 56 days. If not, he would have to take every feather off of his feather coat and would have to be naked and ugly. Nothing was left to the hummingbird but to continue on that diet and hope that he would stop growing. But not so. After the 56 days were over, he was not only as big as the bear, but bigger yet, and he was a tremendous danger to everybody in the neighborhood. Nobody had ever seen a bird that big and a bird that violent, because of course, this poor little bird had not meant to become such a huge thing. What should he do with that size? All he wanted was to impress one pretty little rose, and now, him being so big, that little rose wanted nothing to do with him. So he became vicious and thought that he would use his strength and his size, and he would terrify the neighborhood, and would terrify all the animals, all the people, the bear that had talked him into it, and also all the hummingbirds who had laughed at him when he was so tiny. So day and night he would roam the neighborhood, would kill birds and other animals, and would frighten people so that eventually all the houses became vacant. The farms were left without any crops growing because no one wanted to prepare the fields for fear of that huge, unnatural-looking bird.
The story's taken a turn.
I said this is one of the odder ones. Yeah. Scientists became interested too and wondered about this new strange animal. They arranged for a big meeting and talked over what could have made that bird grow so big, and they wondered... There's only 3 pages left.
No, three pages left?
If 1 page left.
Well,
if maybe I forgot it's only one single-sided. If maybe the recent visit of the deputy of that bad enemy country might have been the cause for the existence of this new bird. So this was written... Well, I'll go into that at the end. This man had come, as he said, just for peaceful talks. But who would know if he did not have it in his pocket, a little bird egg filled with all the scientific know-how of his country to produce such a huge animal? They were all very much in the dark as to what really could be the reason for the existence of this bird. Some people thought that maybe all the atomic explosions had caused mutations in some of the hummingbird genes, and that would make them grow as big as that. They wondered if that same thing might happen to other animals, maybe to people, and that one day the whole earth might be run over by terrible new and dangerous living beings. They decided to study the bird very thoroughly, and for that they had to catch him. How could one catch a bird that big, they didn't know, but they thought that if they would put some sleeping gas over the area and get that bird to become sleepy, they might be able to catch him so they could study it and get some clues, or perhaps the solution then and there. They tried it, and it worked. And 3 weeks later, there was a new big meeting of all the top scientists of the various countries and of the various sciences to study the bird who was now in the midst of them in a huge iron cage from which he could not escape. They asked the bird questions, and they found that the bird seemed a rather primitive thing. It seemed just like an overgrown hummingbird with an overgrown inferiority complex. They heard the story that the hummingbird told about the bear with wonderment, and they started to search for the bear. When they found him, they got the two together and found out that behind all these amazing happenings, nothing really was the matter, but that the skin of a big bear had burst, and that had caused all the confusion and all the anxiety.
Wow. So I think there's something very apt. But by the way, Diana, thank you so much for indulging us when he said, will you indulge me on a short story, then proceeded to read you 9 pages. So thank you for indulging on that.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant. There's so many themes in there, and some of them are like billionaires.
I was going to say the hummingbird is like a billionaire.
So the context of my grandparents is my father was a German Jew. My grandmother was German but was not Jewish. And they were in Italy on business when Hitler came to power and did not return to Germany and made their way, because you couldn't immigrate directly to the United States at the time because, we forget how anti-Semitic things were at the time. So, I know they were in London for a little while and then in Canada, and they came into the United States in 1937.
And they were interred for a while. Sorry.
Well, yeah. There's a whole thing about my grandfather spent several years in an internment camp in in North Dakota as a German immigrant right after he was arrested the day after Pearl Harbor. But so the context of the great, the enemy country and things like that. And I hadn't realized, but this must be one of the last, even though it's first in the book, it must be one of the last ones written because it talks about atomic explosions. I was going to say,
the atomic explosion didn't happen until 45, so right. that was new. That probably was written in the 50s, right? Early 50s or late 40s.
Or late 40s. Yeah. Or was a story that she told my mother and then added that in, or because these were bedtime stories that my grandmother told.
It seems like the bear had this thing in his life that he wanted to change about himself, and because he did that, this billionaire was this unhappy little bird. Then he became this overblowing billionaire that terrorized the landscape, right? And
but would have been happy if he'd just been able to stop after those first few
when
days.
Enough.
After the first billion for flowers, he would have been happy if he stopped at a billion, right?
He could have hung out with his beautiful rose,
I mean, and he probably thought he was doing it to be with his rose, and then probably the rose couldn't be with him when he became the overblown billionaire. I mean, hummingbird. Hummingbird. So, anyway. Well, thank you for indulging us. That's
one of the darkest of them.
I kind of like
the TikTok one was much less.
The TikTok one I liked. It's not about TikTok, the video show. It's about a clock that decides to go, clocks go tick-tock, and one day this clock gets its own personality and says, I'm going to go tick-tock, tick, tick-tock, tick, tick-tock, tick, and then it goes through why he's doing that and why he's not, so that it's about that. It's not about so people listening, it's not about the video platform called TikTok.
No. We should have written in 1939.
To clarify that. Right. Well, I mean, okay, but people will just hear TikTok, and I don't even have a TikTok page.
Well, and if I do figure out how to get this published or something like that, I will certainly send you a copy.
Forward by Diana Colleen.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there we go. Forward by Diana Colleen. There we go.
Oh, well, renowned author of podcast.
Award-winning speculative fiction author and author of They Could Have Been Saviors. And yes, they could have been. But thank you, Colleen. I know I pressed record to get that recording. But now I might just leave that in this episode because it seemed pretty apt. So I like it. But again, thank you for coming on. And I'll be in touch with you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I will make sure to get you signed copies in the mail.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
You too, Diane.
You too.
Diana.
Bye-bye.
And that brings us to the end of tonight's conversation. We started with a dangerous question. What if people with the most power in the world are also the ones who are most in need of healing? Not punishment, not humiliation, but healing. Diana Colleen's work invites us to imagine something uncomfortable. The crisis we call climate change might be a crisis of consciousness, a crisis of disconnection from the planet, from each other, and sometimes from ourselves. Her stories don't ask us to excuse harm. They ask us to examine the systems and the psychology that allow harm to feel normal. Because if the forces shaping our world are human, then transformation is still possible. Maybe the future won't be saved by technology alone. Maybe it will require something quieter, something harder, humility, accountability, and the courage to look honestly at the impact of our choices. Diana's novel, They Could Have Been Saviors, imagines what might happen if the most powerful people on earth were forced to confront themselves, not through violence, but through awareness. It's speculative fiction, but the question it raises are real. What would it take for power to become responsibility, for wealth to become stewardship, for success to include the survival of the planet itself? These are not easy questions, but stories help us sit with them. And that's what Spirit Talk Show is about, creating a space where curiosity is allowed, where difficult conversations can unfold, and where imagination can open doors that certainty keeps closed. Diana, thank you for bringing both courage and compassion to this conversation, and for reminding us that transformation, whether personal or planetary, always begins with awareness. If tonight's conversation sparks something in you, you can learn about Diana Colleen's and her work at dianacolleenauthor.com. And if you enjoyed the episode of Spirit Talk Show, Bedtime Stories for Grown-Ups, consider following the show on your favorite podcast platform and sharing it with someone who loves stories that make us think deeper. And because sometimes the most powerful change doesn't begin in governments or boardrooms, sometimes it begins in a story. And sometimes that story changes the way we see the world. I'm Doyle. Thank you for listening. And wherever you are tonight, sleep well, stay curious, and keep your spirits open. Now go make a story worth telling.